What up, bitches? I hope you're thirsty because we're back with What's Shakin'. I'm the Pickled Ginger Cody Banks, and today I have with me Danny McGill from Mark Daniel Hospitality, hospitality group for Ink Restaurant New Brunswick, Uproot in Warren, and Salted Lime in Somerville. And of course, you guys know Nico. Today we are talking about the gestation of a restaurant. So the conception to the big opening, and yes, that is a pregnancy pun. So, wow. I don't even know
Let's
where I
make
was
this
supposed
shit wet.
to...
Let's get into it. Let's
You
get heavy.
son of a bitch!
This is why you're here, Nico.
You gotta get deep.
This is why you're here.
Danny, tell me a little tell me a little bit about your position with Mark Daniel Hospitality.
So I'm the Director of Operations and Hospitality within Mark Daniel. I guess what that would include is operations, obviously the day-to-day and managing the managers to make sure the business can run, but ultimately I think the more important part is being the Director of Hospitality. And I think being the Director of Hospitality really kind of comes down to being able to create communities within the restaurants that foster, getting the kids to kind of foster the ideals that we believe in and passing that on to the guests.
Okay.
So, the development of hospitality is not something that I think is just innate. You don't just open a restaurant and have hospitality just because you're serving people. I think it's about getting people to understand your concepts and how you achieve those certain goals.
So actually a cool thing is that Nico and myself both worked for Danny at Salted Lime. However, I worked for Danny previously at Ink in New Brunswick, and the reason why I decided to travel 40 minutes north of my house to Somerville is because of this gentleman right here. Because of how he attacks hospitality and steps of service. Because besides Ink, I also work with him at Heirloom Kitchen in Old Bridge, which if you have not checked it out, please do. He developed the steps of service for them, which is a chef's table experience run by Dave Vienna and Neely Robinson.
They were originally a cooking school before Dave became associated with the restaurant, and they decided that they wanted to split their week from cooking school to full-service restaurant, and it was trying to accommodate, I guess, the problem was trying to accommodate their space, which was a cooking school, and give it an air of it being a restaurant, a full-service restaurant, and being on the higher end, because that's what Dave was trying to accomplish. But ultimately, I think what we were trying to find a balance between was the personality of the staff that was there and their ability to keep it warm and friendly, but maintain a high level of service.
How do you guys come up with the menu? What you guys are going to serve? Like, talk to me.
I think for a new restaurant, like anytime we open up a new one,
Just in general, yeah.
I think it should always boil down to personal passions, right? And the team that you have. For instance, for Salted Lime, when we opened up that one, Mark, our executive chef and owner of the restaurant group, personally was really getting into tacos and Latin cuisine and
Churri Papas, you can't forget it.
Yo, Churri Papa!
Hashtag Churri Papas.
You started working with Mark at Uproot, correct?
Correct. Yeah, that's where I started. And so when I started at Uproot, I was actually the head bartender at that restaurant.
Shut the fuck up!
Yeah, I got hired as their bartender, and then when their GM left to go work at, first it was Oceana, then he went to Love Madison Park, they asked me to be the interim GM. I had never run, and at that time we were a fine dining restaurant with tasting menu only. I had never run that sort of program.
Did you shit yourself?
Multiple times, yeah.
So now you know how it feels the first time you took me out to eat. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Why does this corn look like it's 2 inches big? Like, what the fuck is this?
Nico doesn't know what 2 inches looks like. Let that be on the record.
Valid.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was terrifying. I remember when the last day before the GM left, and we had a fairly in-depth wine program. We were offering wine pairings either by the glass or by the bottle, like cellar pairings. And I remember the last day somebody was like, "Oh, I want to do cellar pairings," and then GM, I was like, "So what do I grab?" I'm like, "I don't know what to grab." And he goes, "Well, will I be here tomorrow?" And I was like, "No." And he goes, "Well, exactly. So just pull whatever you want to pull." And I'm like, I could potentially pull $1,000 bottle.
So you can pull anything, absolutely anything.
Yeah, it was from the cellar. It was, and obviously there's bottles that are available that would fit within that price point. But I had no idea. I wasn't, I was still trying to learn how to operate the restaurant. I wasn't that involved in the wine list. The restaurant, we knew we wanted to open up a second one. And in knowing we wanted to do that, we had to find somebody who was passionate about something. And I was personally passionate about whiskey and our beverage program, which didn't necessarily translate to our original concept in Warren. We thought New Brunswick would be a better community to kind of portray the higher end cocktail program and specifically whiskeys.
So with you guys automatically going and be like, this is what I want to do, high cocktail, whiskey. How did you guys go along with creating the food menu to kind of pair with that concept?
That's a great question. So, Ryan Anderson worked with us at Uproot, and we knew his talents. And basically, we kind of explained what our concept was and what our expectations were for the program.
So how'd you find out actually like recipes that go around what you guys were looking for and like drink wise?
Did you let Ryan kind of develop those, or did you give him kind of a shell to work inside?
Parameters.
Okay.
So if we're talking about the food program, he knew that it was going to be a cocktail bar, cocktail / whiskey bar, right? And we wanted food that paired well with whiskey. So those are kind of the parameters that we started with. And like anything else, we could special things off and see how they hit.
That's nice.
So really, all we needed him to do was, try to mirror what we were doing on the front end. Because I don't think if you're going to be a bar and restaurant, not just a bar or just a restaurant, if you're going to be a bar and restaurant, you have to have a close relationship with the back of the house. You have to work together and be cognizant of what each other wants to try to achieve. So I remember we opened up Inc. and we didn't sell a drop of whiskey. I think it was the first 2 weeks that we were open. Not a drop. Not a drop. And I remember.
And you guys have a large whiskey list in general.
Huge.
Yeah. Last time it was around 250 whiskeys behind that bar.
Jesus
Yeah, around
fucking
250 whiskeys. Stay true to your concept long enough to prove that it works or prove that it doesn't.
Yeah.
And eventually it caught on. And Ryan's food was just so well paired with what we were doing. And we started with a small beverage program, because we were training a bunch of people who weren't, used to that sort of program, a high-end cocktail program, high concept. We started tight, we started small, and the first program that we put out was mine.
Yeah.
It was just mine. But ultimately what we started to do is they learned concepts and they learned profiles of different spirits and things like that. We started letting them put their thumbprint. And I think that is what led to our success is this test.
Mm-hmm.
Right, you see what hits, you see what sticks, you see what's popular, and then you kind of lean in one direction or the other. So for us to be inclusive and have a $100 whiskey and also a $5 whiskey allowed us the ability to kind of see, okay, what's selling the most?